We have got such a great guest here today. I am a little bit fangirling. We have Dr. Douglas Clements with us coming here today to talk about the development of some of the math skills that we look at a lot at Made for Math. Dr. Clements, welcome to the show. Would you share a little more about the work that you've been doing over the years?
Sure, I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Yeah, for the past now quarter century, actually, my wife, Dr. Julie Sarama, and I we were funded early on with a National Science Foundation project to develop early childhood math curriculum, especially preschool, because there wasn't that much around at that time. It's really changed since then. Um, and we thought this would be a nice 4-year project. And then we'd move on. We were going to do elementary. We were thinking about middle school, all kinds of things. We never left preschool for the next 25 years because so many issues came up about, okay, we built this little curriculum, but we really wanted it based on kids' development. And there wasn't that much done with really seriously basing all of curriculum, all the activities, all of teaching on what we know about how kids develop different mathematical ideas. So building on the work of Marty Simon, we built learning trajectories. We think we extended Marty's work by making it really developmentally, the core of the thing is the developmental progression or levels of thinking through which kids pass. And then trying to build activities that we think and then we test that activate the kind of mental actions on objects, the ideas and the practices or processes one has to do to achieve that qualitatively different next level of thinking. So building learning trajectories, checking out if
I,
the curriculum works, checking out,
yes.
and then building professional development upon that, and then scaling up has been what's really captured us for all these years.
Absolutely. And I think what you and your wife uncovered is teaching math at an early stage is more complex than we want to believe. And so I
Goodness
love that you've
sake.
created this model for us about how it really develops. So my first introduction to you is actually through the article Subitizing, What is it and why teach it? Inside, it talks about two types of subitizing. The one that maybe some people are aware of, where it's just random dot patterns, but you really defined it in two different ways. Can you talk more about those two ways?
Yeah, we were lucky enough to really come into something that hadn't been done before with subitizing. Like you say, it's often been this kind of thing that you just see some dots and you just say four. And often it also was very, very limited that, first you need to count. So you understand four and you can count it. And then you kind of recognize some dots. And then you move on to more sophisticated counting and arithmetic and everything. But these two types of subitizing, like you say, really extend the range, the generalizability, and therefore the importance of subitizing. So perceptual subitizing is really this kind of built-in, kids have this virtually built-in. I know you work with children with disabilities.
Yeah.
Really important to say there's a very, very small percentage of the population for whom that isn't built in, doesn't work quite the same as it does with everybody else. Maybe we can come back to that because it's really important if it doesn't. But basically, most people have it built in that, especially with the very small numbers, it triggers a pattern in neurologically. And if and that's in animals, bees navigate with this kind of thing. Crows will come to a little cabin that's set up where people go to watch for crows. If two people go in and then one person goes in, crows are not going to come to the field. One person comes out, another person comes out, third person come out, crows go in. So
Right.
yeah, so it's not just humans that have that, but humans can attach the symbol. And for us, Subitizing is when this neurological kind of gifted, evolutionarily gifted neurological pattern is connected to a symbol and a concept much broader than simply that pattern. That's perceptual subitizing. It really only goes up to 3 or 4, which is why a lot of people think subitizing, erroneously think subitizing is a baby skill, and we move on. Okay, but conceptual subitizing is when then you can see a different a pattern that's greater, but generally what people do then, not generally, everybody, what they do. 5 is questionable. The research actually says some people think it still can be perceptual, but above 5 for sure, it's not. It's conceptual above 5. So let's see if I have an example of a higher. Yeah, here we go. Oh, things kept falling away. So there we go. There we go. I've got something. You can't take that in at once, but I
Right.
can show you that very quickly if you're ready. And most people would say, okay, I saw 3 here and 3 here in 1, or maybe they group it 4 and 3 or something like that. But kids can get really good at that. And now we're talking get really good at it. It's not, it's something that depends on that neurological patterning, but is developed with experience for sure. I mean, even perceptual subitizing, you get faster and you get uh, more accurate in naming it and faster in naming it. So it's one of those things that once it becomes automatic, it really helps build up kids' number sense. Julie and I are not big fans of everything in math should be fast. Your math facts have to be fast because reflection and thinking and slow thinking is often the best thing in mathematics. Subitizing, though, coming from a Latin word that means suddenly,
Hmm.
really helps if it's automatic. And it's a quote unquote simple kind of process because once it's automatic, it's not that you have to do a long algorithm or something to get
Right.
the answer. But practicing that kind of conceptual subitizing builds a part whole schema that's very different from perceptual subitizing, because in conceptual, you know at the end that you saw part and another part in a whole. And some people say, so you just added 3 and 4? No, no. Actually, your brain automatically synthesizes the 3 and the 4 into 7. And so again, the part, and the whole are all in your mind at the same time.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? Working memory can handle about 3 items
Exactly,
at the same
exactly.
time. Yes, I think that makes a ton of sense. So, with this conceptual subitizing, there's some debate among teachers about how it should be applied in the classroom. What do you think teachers should be doing if they're going to use conceptual subitizing?
Yeah. First of all, yeah, everybody should be using subitizing who teaches math. And I'm not just talking preschool, kindergarten, first and second grade, where it's introduced and most prominently developed, maybe. But Grayson Wheatley years ago, he was calling it quick images then. He did
Oh,
a very similar thing with fifth graders and found that doing that routinely during the fifth grade year built their increase their scores on achievement tests across all mathematical topics. Not
mm,
better on subitizing, better on everything, because
yeah.
the fundamental quantity sense, the part whole schemas and all that kind of stuff really, really are important to most mathematical thinking. So, uh, first, everybody should do it. Second, don't do it for 20 minutes. It's fast and frequent is what really makes a good experience for kids. Anything where you're trying to get automaticity, but especially subitizing, it's really fun to do very quickly and very short periods. But
Mhm.
it's not something you want to drag out for a long time. But ideally, seriously, every day, short kind of subitizing experiences, and they can be complex. I didn't get a bit picture of this for you, but some things that help like second, third, and fourth graders are to have picture three dots here, a square, in other words, with three dots on each side. If you see that real quickly, 1 second or less, you might think 12, four threes, 12. Wait a minute.
Mhm. Mhm.
Counted the corners twice because there were the corner dot was on this side and this side. So now you think, oh, it's really eight. And those are the kind of subitizing kind of thing that get a little more into understanding structure and stuff like that that are really, really helpful to kids in the upper grades. But it doesn't stop. And fundamentally, the beginning of subitizing called the approximate number system, and then into subitizing, solid competence there makes a difference right through life. So
Absolutely. And we found that to be the same case, even with students who are working with algebra tiles. If we organize them, let's say a unit of one or five X's in a pattern of five, they quickly can see it and they
that's
can quickly find zero pairs, if we're using that conceptual supervising intentionally there. So the other thing that I really love about learning trajectories is anyone that's listening should go set up an account. It's free. It's fantastic. The games are amazing. And with the population that we work with, the game that I really appreciated was it's almost like you're helping the student work on working memory. They're in a spaceship, some dots show up, and you have to hold the image in your mind and then tell the software what you saw. And
right.
I thought that was such a fantastic beginning spot. And it doesn't feel quote unquote babyish to me. I thought it was really done well. So, where did that game come from? Did you and Julie work on that together? And
Yeah.
what was that like?
In our original curriculum, we had something like it, and we've just done versions of that, and we wanted to have some on the website to give people an idea of how a computer can be used well. Not so much in elementary school, I think, but for sure with preschool and even kindergarten teachers. Oh, screen time, bad for
Mhm,
kids. So we
mhm.
want to give an example. Listen, in our studies, we generally have kids on the computer 5 or 10 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week. That is minuscule amount of screen time, but it turns out in our statistical analysis, that's a strong mediator of children's gains. So,
Mm,
it makes a difference, but it's got to be high quality software. And so,
absolutely.
there's a lot of drill and practice kind of stuff that doesn't really help you build conceptual kind of thing. And uh, we try to do something that's interesting to kids, motivating to kids, quick, but really build something that's difficult to do because the computer can also individualize, right? So it
For
can
sure.
raise or lower the kind of level of thinking of the kid and the kind of patterns they're seeing and things like that individually, which is almost impossible for a teacher with 18 to 26 kids or something.
It sure is, right? And it's not like it replaces the teacher, the software. It's
No.
that it's another enhancement, a quality interaction to get that practice in that we know the students need. So the next thing I was kind of curious about with the learning trajectories is what would you say is all included inside of there? Because when I'm in there, there are so many things you could explore. So how does it map out the stages students are going through?
Yeah. So let's talk about the developmental sequence then for subitizing. First, I'll try to do not the trees, not every single level. First say that you already did two of the broad general stages, which is perceptual subitizing and then concept
Yes.
subitizing. First is this approximate number system, and that's where most people can tell if you flash 8 and you flash 16, most people could, no matter if the 8 spread out more and the 16's more dense or something. So no matter what you do, or the 8 might have larger dots, Sorry. Yeah, the 8 might have larger dots and the 16 have smaller dots. And so the sheer area mass that you
Hmm.
see is greater for the 8, but people can separate that and know 16 is more, you know. So this kind of thing is built in for most people, like we talked about most you know, mammals and
Hmm.
other animals have this kind of basic ability too. But to go back to what I said, there is a small part of the population that this is can be diagnostic in a way for teachers that if you have a kid who you're working with subitizing, you know, and you're doing it, and the kid just doesn't isn't with the rest of the kids and everything, if they can't learn even with ideal kind of educational opportunities to learn, it can be, doesn't have to be, but can be a signal that there's the tier two and tier three kind of interventions make sense for that child. It's you have to almost meet someone to understand how it could be. So adults who are missing that kind of quantitative sense, you might say to a typical adult, this room isn't that high, but you might say, how tall is that in meters, you know? And they would say, well, a tall person's about there. So it's about two. It's just about two or a little less. And a person who doesn't have that kind of inborn evolutionarily gifted competence will look at it and say, yeah, meter's about that tall. So 30?
Hmm.
And you're there. You're joking, right? But
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
you're a little sensitive to this, you wouldn't say that to them, because it just doesn't. You know, there's this kind of stuff just doesn't process the same way for them. So it's very important that tier two or likely tier three kind of interventions are important for them. Anyway, back to the so you got this approximate number system. Then you just have what we call number recognizer. Why? Why? Because it's not fast for very young kids and kids who are the neurological pattern that activates when when your senses pick up something like that. And for children with disabilities like visual disabilities, right? This could be, you know, and you can develop it that way. But the neurological pattern is just as quick when you're young, but it might take them a while to say, okay, what's the number word that it's like it's this many? Oh, four. So number recognizers aren't quick on it yet, but they are getting to that they can see have a sensory input, and as long as that sensory input is maintained, not like this, but maintained, they can say four. And so
Hmm.
cool. And then you move to generally by 3 or 4 years of age for most kids with experience. Then you move to the perceptual subitizing. And then once they get solid up to four or maybe five, right? Then conceptual subitizing. Um, and so then that develops certainly in parts too. So the conceptual seems to develop up to five pretty as a coherent kind of thing, and then seven, six, and seven, and then eight, nine, and 10 start to come. And then if you use a structure on it, which we advise people to do, I only have them up to five, but the typical kind of tens frames, or we call them five and tens frames. Um, but this only goes up to five, but obviously they go up to 10. But if you start using this kind of structured arrangement rather than random arrangements or something, that's actually helpful with smaller numbers because kids can see part whole in very different ways. Structured arrangements, you can show kids, you know, an eight and a seven. And boy, I wish I had printed it out for up to 10. I don't think I did. Um, uh, if you've got those kind of structures figured out, then I will just use the wrong numbers here. But if this were filled with eight, so it would be filled in here, and this one was filled in, well, just go with five and pretending this one's eight for a minute. Kids get very good at being able to visually say, I'll move these two over here, make this into a 10, 13 in a second. Now,
Hmm.
if you think about that, if you're a conceptual subitizer up to 20, so you can see the 10 and 10 and 20, but you can also see the 9 and 8 and move one out off to the 8 and say 17. You've got a conceptually grounded, visually based way of accessing all your addition and subtraction facts. So unlike a worksheet of the 50 facts horizontally and
Right.
trying to get speed, get speed, get speed, developing this is still speed. It's more game-like, but it also gives you an access thing because the kind of 8 plus 5 and then move these two over eventually goes underground. You don't actually think of the images in your head and move them over. It's
Right.
underground, it's internalized, it's interiorized, whatever word you kind of like, but it's
Hmm.
automatic. You don't have
Hmm.
to think of it anymore. But should you at all just stumble, somebody's watching you do an arithmetic problem or something, and you're there like, I can never think when somebody's watching me, but you can access those images, make sense of it, and you're back and running. So it's very different from just a flashcard approach to arithmetic for addition and subtraction.
Absolutely. I love that. And the other thing that I noticed on learning trajectories is a lot of the lessons include counting. Could you talk about why? Why is counting such an important part of the lessons that you've
Oh, yeah.
generated?
Yeah. So again, the our learning trajectories. I don't know if you're sending them the URL, but it's
Yes, yes.
learningtrajectories.org, everybody, in case you're wondering what we're talking about. Um, uh, the learning trajectories go for us from birth to about second grade. Subitizing goes from birth to second grade. Arithmetic, maybe not from birth. But kids do, because of this early conceptual subitizing, they do have images of very small numbers, the approximate number system kind of thing. They can show a stage, with a curtain, and they show oh, I don't know, 10 dots or something. Then the curtain closes and another 10 moves into there. And then the curtain opens and kids see either 20 or 10 or something. When they see the 20, okay.
Hmm.
When they see the 10, they're there, huh? So the approximate number system also has kind of this ability to underlie the composition and decomposition of sets and therefore addition and subtraction and the like. So we do work um, on counting because conceptual subitizing is great for that kind of foundation. But how about 100, 97 plus 4? So the accounting process extends, is really an important quantifier, but it extends far past what subitizing does for you arithmetically. And it eventually becomes much more algebraic.
Hmm.
You look at patterns in counting and patterns in arithmetic based on counting, and it opens up another world. So Julie and I like to say that both of them are quantifiers, both counting and subitizing give meaning to a quantity, give a number to a quantity, but they come from different directions. And when they're combined, they're the most powerful. So give you
Correct.
two examples, if you don't mind.
Hmm.
One of them would be people erroneously think kids can't recognize four if I don't teach them to count it so they know it's four. They don't understand that the four is a pattern for them and can be assigned a word before they understand four as a quantity in counting. That is, kids, maybe three, some as old as five, will go, can you count these? Yep, one, two, three, four. How many? One, two, three, four. Okay, how many were there? Five? I'm five. But they don't get what's called the cardinality principle,
Hmm.
which is that the last number word tells how many. So what we do is we build subitizing ability And then we count not like this, one, two, three, four, because now when we say one and point to one, you're seeing four. We say two, you're seeing four. So what we do is we do an activity like I'll use my fingers, but the activities
Okay.
with inch cubes. We say,
Hmm.
hey, I put as many inch cubes in my hand as I could hold. Count with me so you can see how many. And we pull out one. I'll pretend this is a cube. And we say one. Then we get another one, two, another one, three, another one, four. Ah, I could hold four in my hand. So uh, I don't think, and we gesture around. I forgot to do that for my hand. And I said, I don't, your hands are smaller than mine, so I don't think you could hold as many as me, but try it later. So the point is, because kids will come to you and say, I got eight, but the point is, if kids are keeping, if they know their verbal number sequence, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, and they know to keep one-to-one correspondence, kids who can't, 3-year-olds will go one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, right? But they can do that, but they don't get that idea that the last counting word tells how many. If you've developed subitizing, it makes sense. Wait a minute. I know one. We said
Hmm.
one when we counted it. There's one. And oh, I know two. That's three. Oh, four. So then you do the gesturing and stuff like that. So subitizing can imbue counting with the cardinal idea and the cardinal principle that the last number word tells how many in the counted set much better than if you just try to tell kids at four after you've counted them when they point at this one and they see four. So that, it doesn't build the quantitative sense that we do in the carefully constructed activities on our website and
Hmm.
all. And that's where it's really a subtle difference, but it's an essential difference. So let me keep going. How does counting help subitizing? Well, if you got one of these crazy difficult kind of things. Seven is really hard to do in a line, and you're not sure. So you said eight. Some kids said six. Well, yeah, count them and check them. It's a perfect check. But also, if kids are trying to think of uh, oh, okay. I need to add five and four, and I'm not sure. I can't conceptualize it, or I'm not sure. But if you can subitize the five, if you've got the five pattern, and then you go five, six, seven, eight, nine. Oh, you've combined a kind of subitizing and a counting approach. Um, uh, and the combination of those is more powerful than either one alone.
Hmm.
One more example.
Yes.
A weakness in counting that subitizing really helps with is if you count and you're solving 8 plus 5 or something like this, and you count out eight, then you count out five, and you count one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, and you get all the way up to 13. Fine. But the effort of starting at one and counting all the way up to 13 means working memory, which you were referring to
Hmm.
before, is filled with those counting words and the answer. But the
Yes.
eight and the five have disappeared. But subitizing either by saying, I know what eight looks like, and I know what five looks like, so I'll move two over and I'll see three are left, or I'll just start with eight and then go 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The,
Right.
the, the possibilities of combining subitizing with counting is way more powerful than just counting alone or just subitizing alone.
I love that. I love that. Um, I think everyone listening is going to be super curious about how they can learn more from you and from Julie. So if they head over to Learning Trajectories, tell me how can they get involved with the PD that's over there for the teacher side? And then what
Yeah.
about for parents too?
Yeah. Oh, the learningdirectories.org, two things you can do are under resources, one of the tabs at the top. If you're a teacher, you can click on teachers, and there's a large set of videos and stuff like that Julie and I would love to do professional development face to face, but in lieu of that, we have tried to capture a lot of the kind of ideas in there. And then also, if you open up a topic, counting, subitizing, shapes, measurement, patterning, all that kind of stuff, in the top upper right, after you open that learning trajectory and see all the levels, is learn about. So you can see a quick professional video of me explaining why that topic's important. So there's that. There's the tab for resources and families. Yep. There's a tab. No, not a tab. When you click on the tab resources, you see the who it's for. So you click on teachers or you click on families, parents,
Perfect.
and you there's other resources for them, some videos and some documents and the like.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for putting all of that together and dedicating the last 2 decades plus of your life to that work. And what interesting work are you doing now? What can we do to support you as an audience?
We would love you to stay aware. We're not ready for even hardly ready for prime time. Not even ready for people to try it out yet, but it's soon. So you can write me at douglas.clements@du.edu. And we'll put you on a list for what Julie has called now our bajillions project, because it's a word kids use to just mean big numbers like Google
Yes.
was. So Bajillions is a new software product that actually has way more resources for teachers and more games at more levels for kids. And the games are much more diagnostic of what level there is. And then the
Mm,
Bajillions web for teachers will tell you, okay, your kids played these games. We move some kids to an earlier level, some kids to a later level. Here are where the kids are. Here's an activity for the whole class that's pretty good for everybody. And if you want to, your kids who are kind of at that later level, here's a small group activity for them. And so you don't have to kind of go to the website and say, where do I start here? Where do I go? Which is the website was originally created for our scale up projects as a professional development tool run by us. So you
right.
go there yourself, but you're exploring a massive amount of information without a
Yes.
guide. So the Bajillions project is supposed to be that guide more. Plus, it has better software, more diagnostic software, and will link to the
Mhm.
existing Learning Trajectories website and feed you activities that it at least believes, based on your kid's performance on the various activities, is just the right thing for your kids.
Ah, that's amazing. I will be emailing you to get on the bajillion list.
Right.
And
That'd
we'll
be,
make sure people can find a way and we'll come back and update the video when you're ready for more prime time
that
so
would be
people can
super.
find
We
it.
would love to share it. Julie and I would love to share it together at such point that it's usable by anybody.
Absolutely. It has been such a delight to have you. We like to end the show with a joke. Do you have a math joke or a pun that you
I'd forgotten you warned me about that one too.
like?
No, no, I don't have one. That's a math joke, but I think I will just because to emphasize, and I don't think I said this at the beginning. I was a preschool and a kindergarten teacher myself. That's my history of public school, except for teaching student teaching. All my public school teaching experience was preschool and kindergarten. So. Um, I'll tell you a little story about me as a first year kindergarten teacher. Um, I I had the principal told me 5 weeks into the year we had parent talks. So they come and they're not supposed to ask about their kids. They're just supposed to hear about the program. The parent teacher conferences are at 10 weeks when you should know a little more about the kids. But I still remember Jeanette's parents who came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, Mr. Clements, thank God Jeanette's doing better now." And I'm freezing. What was wrong with Jeanette? Like she wasn't the one who ran out of the door and I had to chase the first day of school. That was a boy. I remember he was fast. Um, so I tried to just say, get a little more information. Say, tell me more about Jeanette. And they said, the dad said, she came home on Wednesday, the first day of school. And we said, tell us about your teacher. And she wouldn't say anything. And then the same thing on Thursday, the same thing on Friday. And then the next Monday, I got a little mad at her. And I said, Jeanette, you have been in school for 4 days now. Tell us about your teacher. She started crying. She said, I can't. She keeps sending her husband in. So from then on, way back when I taught, which was a long time ago now, we're talking nearly half a century, there were no men in preschool.
That's right.
The kid was sure that I was just a substitute, and she hadn't met her real teacher yet, who was quite a woman. So from then on, I sent a letter home to the kids before they came, and with a picture of me in the letter and saying, "Really, I'm your teacher."
I'm your teacher. I love that. I love that. And I can't help but notice you have a guitar. So did you play guitar for your kindergartners?
I always did, yeah.
That's
Egelina
so fun.
Hagelina was one of their favorite songs, yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll have everything linked up and we hope to have you back when Bajillions is ready.
Thank you very much. It's great talking with you.